Welcome, everyone, to another podcast episode of Academic Afterlife, a podcast where we discuss and research what happens to our lives after leaving academia. Today, my guest is Sam Apte, actually, my former colleague. We were both PhD students at the University of Oldenburg in Germany. And today, she wants to tell us a bit more how is it to work as a CRA or a clinical research assistant. So,
Hi.
hi, Sam. Thank you so much for deciding to join and share your experiences. And usually we start this podcast with the question to learn a bit more about the background of our guests. And so, my question for you would be, what is your background more specifically, and what do you do in your job?
Okay. So I don't know how I should start, but I'll probably start with my bachelor's. I did my bachelor's in India in microbiology, my master's in biomedical genetics and genetic counseling. Then I worked as a genetic counselor for a bit where I tried to explain people what genetic diseases are and in a way that they understand and can make an informed decision in choosing if they want to do a genetic test, meaning to find out how much of their genes are going to affect their quality of life in the coming years. Then I came to Germany, did my another master's in neuroscience because I started missing lab. So I wanted to be in the lab, and then I started working as a PhD student at a University of Oldenburg. And then eventually I thought, I'm missing quite a lot of work-life balance and structure in my life. And that's how I landed up on my current job, which is working as a clinical research associate. What I do in my job at the moment is that I monitor the progress of a clinical trial, which means if there's a company that produces a medicine and they want to bring it in the market. So before they bring it into the market, the drug or the medicine has to go through all these phases in which it is tested as to how safe is it, how okay is it following, the regulations that need to be fit to allow it to be in the market and to be sold as a regular drug. And yeah, so that's my job right now.
That sounds really interesting to me. Can you tell me? So, since I'm someone who doesn't know anything about how is it to work as a CRA, when you say you test a drug, do you mean you test it on animals, you test it on
So,
humans, or how does this
so the
testing
tests
go?
are in four phases from phase one to phase four. First phase is then animals. Second is like on healthy individuals who do not have that disease. Let's say we want to take an example of a headache medicine. So if I don't have headache and I still take the medicine, what's going to happen? Like they look for how is the drug once it's in the body going to spread to places, which cells is it going to attach to, and so on. Then the same drug is goes to phase two, where it's compared between healthy and non-healthy individuals, so people who actually have a headache. And this is done on a smaller scale, so let's say a few hundred patients, and then it graduates to a few thousands all over the world. And in fourth phase, which is after it has already been released in the market, where it said, okay, it's safe enough. These people can take the medicine and it has really good effects and it is, really beneficial for the population. Then it's released and then we follow the drug. Like, what happens if I take the medicine today and okay, that's fine. I don't have headache anymore, but is it still okay? Or am I still okay after 10 years? So it's like a follow-up period is like super long and you keep looking up like, what's happening? Did something go wrong? If yes, then we need to immediately either retract or take actions on the said drug.
So, for your job as a CRA, you said there's four phases. Do you focus on just one phase, or do you work on all of them
Depends
for
on the
one drug?
company that you work for or your clients' needs. So my clients are usually big pharma companies who want their drugs to be monitored, to be, they're testing right now. And sometimes I'm focused on phase 3, sometimes on 2. It also depends on your experience. How much are you into the field? So I would say newbie CRAs who are just starting out, they usually take care of phase 3 because then there's something happening, but it's like huge and you get more exposure. And the risk is relatively low because it's already past, a certain stage in development. And then people who are really super experienced go towards the lower phases, so phase 1 and phase 2. So the risk is higher, but since you are experienced, you know the field, you know the regulations, you know how things go on within the industry, then you can just go to that area.
And when you say when you know the regulations, are we talking about, like, I don't know, is there a specific regulation for a type of medicine, or is it regulation based on EU level, or
Both.
on, I don't know, is it the same
No,
regulation
no, no, both.
anywhere?
So
Yeah.
regulations are different for every country, every region, continent, population size, and so on. You need to know those. But also, let's say if someone takes a drug and that person, they are not feeling well after that, and there's something horrible happening, the way you go about it depends on your experience. So the more experienced you are, okay, this has happened. I know what I'm supposed to do. I need to contact these, and these people as soon as possible, preferably right now in this moment. And so the reaction time is also quite important. That's what I mean. So regulations, I meant like rules to follow once an event has happened. Yeah.
Okay, and so to connect it to your background, you said you had some background with genetic testing and, like, how would I say, telling to people, is it a how good of an idea is it? Do they really want it? So do you then can you connect experience from that job to the job you're
Absolutely,
working now?
absolutely. So it's also something that I missed while I was doing PhD, is to have this human contact, to talk to people, because like you would know, you are with your own project and it's relatively, yeah, you're on your own, right? So you have your colleagues, but it's still a limited number. And for me, I miss that a lot, to talk to people, to kind of spread the knowledge, to tell them, this is something super cool that is happening in the field of medicine or genetics or whatever. So yeah. And the second thing is interpersonal relations. um, the best thing is that my genetics job taught me was to be patient with people. And no matter how many times they ask me for something, I will be patient and tell them, okay, this is how it is. But it also taught me after a point to say no, and you need to figure this out on your own, which is a huge help in this field.
And also the way you say no, I suppose, when you're working a lot with people, it matters. When you just brush them off and you get the
Yeah,
same reaction back, yeah, it's something you gain experience and then you're
exactly.
better at it, I
Exactly.
suppose.
Yeah.
So now we know a bit more about how does it look like to work on this job. But how did you? So when you were in the middle of your PhD, you said you were missing some human connection. How did you get into this job? Did you just Google around? Did you hear from someone like, "Oh, this is a good
Yeah.
opportunity," or I don't know?
Actually, yes, I would say. So it was really a coincidence because I was looking for a job outside of academia, and I knew at some point that I really want to quit academia for mainly two reasons. One was work-life balance, because I missed that a lot. And second was to have a very specific structure to my life, and to my career more than life. So in academia, it's you hit and miss, you never know. So if you are lucky, you get the grant, you get the publication, you get your results, and it's really okay. I don't really know how to proceed further. You know what I mean? So I really miss that. And I wanted a career in which I can say, okay, I have done these, and these things. So I want to progress in a way that is meaningful to me. So
Yeah, I agree. I also think, and what I heard from other people in academia, it can be a little
yeah,
bit like lottery, right? Sometimes you win with your numbers and with your publications, the grant. Sometimes you don't. No one can really guarantee you how your
yeah.
future will look like. But so how does it look in your job if you're saying it's structured?
It looks great. So far so good is what I would say. I have a start of the day and end of the day, a definitive end of the day, because everyone else also stops working, so it's great. And then same applies for the week, month, and a year. And I have a set of goals that are company goals and my personal goals. And if I'm able to fulfill those, if I have ticked all the boxes, then I can go to my boss and say, okay, I have done these and these things and I'm good at it. And these are the proofs that I'm good at it. So I want, let's say, a new study that I want to go into, or I want more exposure within the company, or I want a promotion or a salary hike. And that's really, really possible in this field. You can do that.
Wow, that sounds, yeah, how would I say, a structured
Yeah.
progress, as you said, in your career. It can be really, I mean, I'm sure there are people who would also find this a little bit strange, but it can also be really
Yeah.
calming, right? Because, like, if I did I said, what was asked from me, then I'm just fine and I can
Yeah.
ask for that promotion. You don't need to be nervous or
No.
scared about it, right? So that also gives some kind
Yes,
of comfort.
absolutely.
So, who would you recommend this type of job for?
I would say people who like to work with people, who like to talk to people a lot, and kind of get things done with a lot of skill, because it's essentially like I'm coming to you and asking you, okay, now show me all the recordings that you have done so far. And I'm going to compare it, let's say, to something, I don't know, which is a standard of in podcasts, and then say, okay, but you missed this and this. So you should make this and this more or something. And if you're able to do this very skillfully without pissing some other person off and saying that they are actually happy to help you and also get your help and feedback, I think the job is for them. And if you really like structure and if you like progression, a certain kind of progression, like um, which can be considered as a boring job after academia, because then it's very like, okay, this is what we do every day, these are the meetings that we attend, and so on. If you like that, then the job is definitely for you.
People out there, you're listening to the same things I am. To me,
Yeah.
that sounds really good. I like it when my job has structure and when I can also finish my day at
Yeah.
a certain time and
Yeah.
just relax. Um, but can you tell me a bit more about your typical day, as in this job? I don't know. Can it be hybrid? Can it be remote? Is it only on site, or maybe sometimes you go and visit some sites? So how does it
It's
look?
a mixture. So usually, most of the CRA jobs are remote, where you can, you're not expected to be on at the office. And then you have a study and you have a monitoring plan, so to say, like how often do you need to be on site. And this again depends on who you're working for, what your schedule looks like in that company for that customer. And you go on site or on site visits according to this plan. And that's the only thing. Then, after you go to these sites, you write a report about it, get it approved, and basically your job is done. And then you go hop on to the next one. So how I think I'm on site pretty much 8 to 10 days in a month. So that's pretty good. And that's the exciting part. You get to travel a lot. You get to see a lot of things. I only traveled in Germany so far, but it's been quite nice.
And when you say on site, I suppose, I mean, I don't know, some.
Exactly. Oh yeah. No, no, it's a hospital because then they test the drugs in the hospital, and then you go there and check if they have done a good job, if the patients are safe. Patient safety is something that is the most important thing in the field, and you need to report it also accordingly. Like if it wasn't, then you need to tell people, hey, this and this has happened, and we need to take care of it. So yeah. So it's usually hospitals, and then you come back. Yeah.
Okay, so it also includes, how would I say, I'm not going to say like a doctor, but a part of a human contact with patients, not only with, I don't know, other
No,
CRAs,
actually, you
right?
don't work with patients. You just see their files. But the nurses, the doctors, your colleagues, that's the human part of it.
So, you mentioned in Germany. Can you tell us a bit more about your experience? Yeah, as a foreigner looking for a job after leaving academia, do you have any advice for
Yes, I
listeners,
would.
viewers?
I think it's not the best, like, well received advice, I would say, because every time I say this, I get not a great feedback, but it's more like learn German. It's super hard. I know it's annoying, I know, but still, it will make your life a lot easier. Get a C1 certificate. And then the people also see that, you're putting in efforts and you're in the course, you're trying. Because, I mean, I hear this argument very often, why though? Why should I learn German? The company is English and so on. But when you go to these sites, these hospitals or clinics, people there, they are, let's say, in a village and they don't need English, to be honest. They are fine without it. So I would really highly recommend that you learn German, like really. And second thing would be, if you want to leave academia, it's completely fine. Don't take insane amount of burden like, oh my God, what's happening and is this even okay? It's okay. I did it. There are several people who do that because if you it's like you said, it's a lottery. If you're not winning time and again, then you should decide if you still want to buy a lottery ticket or you want to then say, okay, maybe not. Maybe I'm going to look for something else. And which is completely fine. This is one field that you can go to, like being a CRA. There's another field which is like a step before CRA that comes, and it's called CTA. So it's Clinical Trial Associate, where you are dealing with mostly paperwork, and it does not involve traveling. So you're home based. You prepare all the documents that are necessary for a CRA, and then you send it to them. So that's also quite an interesting job if you're into that kind of thing. Uh, Mindset to, let's say, if someone needs to be home more than outside, and if you have children to take care of, your partner, or anyone really, that's also quite a good option, I would say.
Okay, good to know. So, people, hear what Sam is saying, learn German. And yes, it can be hard and it can be a long process, but it will make your life easier if you're planning to stay inside these German speaking countries in Europe. So, what would you say are the top 3 to 5 skills that are important for this job? Apart from German, of course, which is
Yeah,
specific for this case, but in general, I mean, anywhere
yeah,
in the
that's
world,
true.
right?
Um, uh, Being polite and humble, I would say, because especially if you're coming from academia, you are this one person who knows this one skill, and you're the only person, so to say, in the working group. That if I have a problem with whatever, I would only go to Maya, and she is the one and all, kind of. but you're not going to be this in a huge company. So it's a bit of a mindset change, and it's okay to admit that no, I don't really know a certain concept or anything. Can you please show it to me again? Um, Second thing would be keeping to the deadlines. So it's not quite fluid. You have a certain deadline and you must keep to it. Um, Third would be communication skills. And it just doesn't mean, that you can talk to people super well, but documentation. So if you are having a phone call with someone, you immediately write an email afterwards saying that, hi, thank you for the phone call. As we spoke, blah, 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 summarize it and send it. So that's also a very important part to communicate well and keep up to date with these things. Then I think you can come quite ahead, I would say.
So you said that there is a structured progression within this line of work. So if I start as a CTA, then I continue as a CRA. So what are the next steps? Can you name let's say maybe some future positions that people could have if they're really good at your job?
So you can act or you can work as a manager yourself. So you get your own team of CRAs. That's one progression way. Then you can go up ahead in that area. So you're then manager, let's say, only for your team in Baden-Württemberg. Then you're a manager in Germany. Then you are a manager for Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. Then you eventually take up the entire Europe and then world. And so it always goes on increasing, again, depending on how well you're able to cope up with things. That's one path. Mm, the second path that I know of is project management, but on a bigger scale. So there's a huge trial going on. That means you need to set budgets for not only one site, but let's say 15 other sites and Germany, and then eventually Germany, Austria, Switzerland together, then Europe together, then so on and so forth. That's another career progression. And the third is, I think, clinical trial designing, but I'm not completely sure, so I wouldn't say too much about it. I'm too, I'm very sure about then being on the, manager side and managing projects and managing people, or together a combination of those that you can be. Then there's also, um, how can you say, coaching the new coming CRAs, which a lot of people also do. That you work in a company, say, and then you are this person who teaches them everything. There's a CRA school or program or whatever, and then you teach them, what does it mean to be a CRA? What are good clinical practices? Why are those important? The history of it all. And yeah, how do we progress, and how does it stand, to be important even today?
Okay. So there's a lot of options that humans who are interesting can go into. Um, But what about, so currently, let's say, so I finished my PhD, but maybe there are some people who are in the middle of their PhD and they're currently thinking, well, you know what, this job sounds really good. What can they do to like increase their chances to get hired as a CRA one day? So is there some kind of skill set that they can go, maybe some kind of a course they can do? Do you have any kind of
Yes,
advice on
I
that
would
side?
say you can go for a Weiterbildung in Germany. So just it's a as a CRA or a CTA. Either way, you can choose either of that or project management. That can also be done. But for starters, I would say go for a good clinical practices certification course. So you have that certification, and then you can show the companies that, I'm doing stuff on my own as well, because companies like to see it, that people are putting in effort and they are saying, okay, I have tried this and I have tried that, and I really want to be there. So that's one way of showing. And That's at least what I did. And talk to people on LinkedIn. But don't just randomly text people, but with like a proper agenda. Because I did this. I talked to one of the recruiters in some company. And when I texted them, I said, I'm Sam and I'm working as a research assistant PhD student at the moment, but I'm 100% sure that I want to find a career outside of academia. And these are my qualifications so far. Is there anything I can do to make sure that I'm, hired as a trainee, for example? And they told me, yeah, you can go for a good clinical practices course. That's stepping stone. And then they actually offered me a Weiterbildung. That can also happen. So you really need to show them motivation and not just ask like, okay, how do I get the job? Because that's going to put you in a very negative light immediately. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is a good advice because then it shows that you have an idea and
Yeah.
you have the initiative and you already did some steps and they're thinking, okay, well, we have, they want someone like that in their company. When a problem pops up, they want someone who's already thought about the problem, already did the first step, and then they
Exactly.
reach out, right? So, yeah, it shows that you are a person who knows how to prepare a little bit before they
Yeah.
just go out and ask around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot for all this information. I find it really useful myself. Is there some place where people can reach out to you in case they want to ask more, or
Yeah,
I
sure.
don't know?
I'm on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
It's Shambhavi Apte. You can post a link. They can contact me on LinkedIn, which is completely fine. And yeah, that's where they can find me.
Well, unless you have something more to add, I would love to, yeah, thank you for joining us here, for sharing your experiences and your advices. I found them really interesting, and maybe I send some more
Yeah,
applications for CRAs after this. We
yeah,
will
for
see.
sure. Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
so much for having me on the
yeah.
podcast. It was a great opportunity. It's a wonderful field. Feel free to contact me if you have any further questions, want to know more about this field. Just text me, which is going to be fine.
Well, thank you, Sam, and hope to speak to
Yes.
you soon again. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
have
You
a nice
too.
day.
See ya.